that's almost like playing. If you think that you can tell that someone's circumcised just by doing that, that's almost by playing like a game of mystery box and trying to figure out what's in the box.
It was their first run at two-factor authentication. They were like, okay, his face I recognize. Now let's check out. Let's check out the penis. Okay, that's a mismatch. Your penis doesn't match your face there, buddy.
Dearly beloved, welcome to the Unblessed Podcast, where we inquire and exposit the mysteries of that ancient text, that good book itself, the Holy Bible. We are not theologians nor historians. We are but armchair philosophers who spent years in seminary or on a church staff and have since departed to make our own way. We invite you now to read, think, and laugh with us as we dive deep into the denominational doctrines of the divine in the Unblessed Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unblessed Podcast. My name is Evan.
And I'm Scott.
And we are two ex-members of the Lord's Army. Now, Scott, to someone who has no idea what that... Scott, to someone who has no context of what members of the Lord's Army might mean, you might think it's some paramilitary organization in deep Arkansas. But what do we mean by member of the Lord's Army?
As a kid, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, I'm joining an actual military organization. I'm going to have a role in killing a demon at some point in my life.
I'm God's Green Beret.
I have a license to kill, but evangelize first.
Would you like Jesus? No? Blam!
Bam. Yeah, it's all toned around a few verses to my recollection of like putting on the armor of God and like being part of like the angel armies of the Lord above. And so like every day you're supposed to pray to God, your commander in chief, and then you are just his commander in chief. You are his humble servant.
Joe Biden.
I think people pray to the president a lot more than you think, Evan. I bet.
No.
I bet if we took a guess.
No one
how many
prays
people
to the president.
Oh, I bet they
Nobody
do.
prays to the president.
I bet at least 5 people.
Nobody prays to a Democratic president. Let me say
That's probably fair, but I still think there might be more than one.
Did people pray to Trump? Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
People like try to like bring Trump to where they're at. They try to like completely like transport him. Like, please bring Donald Trump here to get me out of the speeding ticket. Yeah. Please, God.
Please, dear God, baby Donald Trump.
Baby Donald Trump, our commander in chief.
Our commander in chief.
But yeah, you know, you're supposed to be in God's army because there's an army of devil and darkness out there, and we're the soldiers of the light. And so you were supposed to like, everything was very war based. Okay, Evan, everything was very war based. Did you have a very military-esque kind of Christianity?
Yeah, I mean, like I think the verbiage was there. So this all spun from, there's a children's song called "I'm in the Lord's Army." I'm in the Lord's Army.
I'm in the Je suis la jeune fille.
Put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. But there's a song called "I'm in the Lord's Army," and it goes something to the effect of like, "I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly over the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And it just does that for like ever. And it's wild because it's like, it's wild on two levels. One is wild that's presenting this war front at that early of an age to kids and being like, you're at war, but it's a fun war. But the other part of it, I think, is hilarious.
It's war, but with peanut butter jellies.
If you with orange slices, if you are like if you're a grown person still being like, well, I never marched in the infantry. I was never in Iraq. I was never in Baghdad. I was never in Kabul. But I'm an equally important member of the military because I was in the Lord's army.
Respect me because I'm in the army, the Lord's army.
I'm a veteran of spiritual warfare. Give me my gum for 50 cents less.
I'm just rereading the lyrics, and it's like, I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, or shoot the artillery. I may never shoot for the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. That's wild. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're just, like you said, it's telling these kids, like, you might not ever join the military, little Billy, but you're just as important because being in the military deserves respect. That's why I'll respect you.
It also does, I think, the most wild thing about it that's like kind of glossed over here is the fact that the song assumes a clear and present danger of an enemy in the real world.
Yeah, this was clearly written in a wartime.
Yeah, it was clearly written like there is an enemy. America is.
Francis Scott Key wrote this.
America's already at war with somebody, and this person wrote it and was like, this goes out to everybody who may not ever join the military.
Nothing like feeling of taking another man's life by shooting with a musket.
You know what? It was probably written by a draft dodger, calling it.
Yeah.
Someone who had bone spurs and couldn't join NAM.
Were there other military-esque songs? Like, I know we've talked about like doing more military-ish stuff in church, but I'm trying to think like kids songs. We would sing
military
like God
children's
Bless America. Would you sing God Bless America in church?
God bless. Yes, absolutely.
We would do that every 4th of July.
Yep.
No matter what.
That always made me feel weird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That one felt like I was suddenly transported into like a different time. Like, where are we?
It was like all of a sudden you just went to just a Memorial Day festival inside your church. And it's like, God bless America. America the Beautiful would get sung.
We would do that one too.
Like, and it was always a very like patriotic message around America.
Did you ever have, I think we've talked about this with maybe the VBS stuff in the past, but did you ever have to salute the Christian flag?
Only in Vacation Bible School.
We would do VBS, but we'd also do it on 4th of July. We would salute the Christian flag that was, used for good in many situations.
No, never been used for bad.
Never bad.
Ever.
Always good.
Always good reasons to fly that Christian flag. Not that there are like thousands of video games based off of it.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're good there.
No, I don't have any recollection of saluting it on a particular holiday. I remember reciting the Christian Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag and God's holy word.
For the nation, for the kingdom, for
nationwide is on your side.
Christian Pledge of Allegiance. Let's look it up.
That's going to bring me back if I can remember this. Thinking.
Hey, this is good audio content, right? I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag and to the Savior for whose kingdom it stands. one brotherhood, uniting all mankind. Oh, I think it might be uniting all Christians, but this one
uniting
says
all Christians in service and
and
love.
in love.
Yeah, I remember that.
The end.
That just triggered me back to like being 8 years old, and everything smelling like pee.
Yeah, there's a lot of there is a lot of militaristic propaganda when it comes, and I think not without reason, because like 2/3 of the Bible is war stories.
Yeah, yeah. As we've been reading, there's a lot of gruesome, kind of bloody shit that happens. Especially, I think what always gets me in a different mindset when reading this Bible again is that so many things have gotten inaugurated by violence. It's like I'm still thinking about that time where they're like, yeah, we're going to bless all the Levites because they're the ones that killed all these people. So congratulations. Like,
good job, Levites.
You're now God's chosen ones because you killed the most people. Way to go.
You're now God's chosen ones because you're the only ones left.
You're the ones that survived.
Well done.
Just like God intended.
It's a nice moral of if you kill everyone else, you do end up being the last ones left. And so you have to be divinely
You have
anointed.
to be blessed in that moment. Yeah. I don't know enough about the history of the time and how God was really used in like warfare. From what I have gathered, what I would even say I guess at is that with God being a reason and the source of many pieces of knowledge, like why does it rain and why does this thing happen? Why does the sun go up and down? So like God was the pinnacle of, I would say, a lot of knowledge. So I'm guessing like people would pray to God all the time before warfare to get. It's kind of like we were talking about like people praying for God before football games. It's like, hope my team wins. So whatever they could do to make sure God was behind them. But I think that's just bled into our society today. Yeah,
there's a whole story about Saul losing his kingdom because he didn't sacrifice. We didn't wait for Nathan to sacrifice an animal.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nathan or Samuel, can't remember. And he entirely loses the kingdom based off of that. There's also the famous story of Constantine riding into battle, adopting the Christian flag. And he wins, and he was like, all right, well, guess this flag works.
Christianity for me today.
Yeah. Which his mom was also a Christian, so that bled into his. But like the story is like he rode into battle under the Cairo symbol, the P with an X in it.
Jesus was like, "That's badass. That guy deserves a win."
This guy's pretty metal, honestly.
This guy's pretty awesome. Actually, I'm rooting for him now.
Yeah.
Never mind everybody else.
Yeah. Fuck all you guys.
Well, speaking of people getting screwed by God, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Moses. Specifically, there are many stories we can tell on Moses, and there are many stories we've already told. But specifically, we're talking about the time where God almost killed Moses. Dun, dun, dun.
Everybody forgets this part. Because I did.
Dun, dun, dun.
What a mystery.
And there are also a few different things we can talk about in this verse. But Exodus, chapter 4, Moses has already killed a man. By the way, he did that in Egypt, and he fled to Midian, where he married his wife and lives with his father-in-law, essentially, on his farm. But this is where God speaks to him at the burning bush, where he gets the vision to go back to Egypt.
And scene.
Yep. Moses went back to his father-in-law and said to him, "Please let me return to my relatives in Egypt and see if they are still living." Jethro said to Moses, "Go in peace." Now in Midian, the Lord told Moses, "Return to Egypt, for all the men who wanted to kill you are dead." So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and returned to the land of Egypt, and Moses took God's staff in his hand. The Lord instructed Moses, when you go back to Egypt, make sure you do all the wonders before Pharaoh that I've put within your power. But I will harden his heart so that he won't let the people go. I want to stop.
Yeah. There's a couple of things in there.
This is something that comes up in all sorts of like different like circles about theology and about free will and different things like that. The idea that God intentionally hardens Pharaoh's heart to make the people of Egypt suffer so that Pharaoh is forced to let his people go.
Yeah. This is pretty juicy theology because the Bible's easy to interpret if you just look at it as like good guys versus bad guys. Because that's how I grew up, was like, oh, it's just the good guys against the bad guys. So, well, whatever God's got to do to help out the good guys, then it's fine. But when you look at it as the whole world being a community, it's like, oh yeah, there's Egyptians that had to suffer. If we remember later, like there's the water supply turning to blood and a plague of locusts, plague of frogs, the crops die, your livestock dies. It's like
the firstborns of every house.
Yeah, so it's like we're talking not just Pharaoh himself, the villain, the bad guy. It's like you have to also include the whole nation if we're going to take this historically. And that's I guess that's where it comes down to. But yeah, it's like, is he responsible for all of that mess because he's the one that's actually hardening the heart? But what are your thoughts, Evan?
No, I think you're exactly right. Like it's an interesting question of, is this a one-time off thing? Or, does God have the full ability to harden someone's heart towards, anything? So at that point, like, what is our decision making? Like how, at that point you can't do the argument that God doesn't send people to hell, people send people to hell by avoiding God. No, here, like, if we take it from an evangelical standpoint, God can very much send people to hell. God can very much harden people against him for the quote unquote purposes of his glory, and send people straight to hell. And
it doesn't make sense when you really start asking questions about it. I mean, this falls right in with like the Romans 13 narrative of God creates some pottery for his own good and for his pleasure, and he makes other pottery just to throw it against the wall for fun. And it's like, that's what it comes down to, of why the question of why does some people go to hell or not get saved or get killed in like war times, like just because God wanted them to, which is wild to me to really apply on a daily basis, thinking, okay, well, God's for me and for people that survive, and if people die, then God must have hated them or predestined them for that purpose.
Yeah. Which I think that's where the cracks really become big, because it becomes this question of, okay, well, we have a story about the Bible and someone hardening their heart. And I'm going to do it, Scott.
No.
I'm going to do it.
Oh, no.
What about World War II?
I thought you were going to talk about jerking off. So if it's a Hitler.
It is Hitler.
Does God stop Hitler from jerking off?
No. But I think it's a valid question. Like I think it's not a valid question so much as it's not a far jump to ask yourself, could God have just straight up hardened Hitler's heart?
Sure. Yeah. Like, why couldn't he have said, okay, I'm going to break his leg today on the way to the bad idea factory?
Yeah.
And then he never would have had those ideas. But
I know I bring up the Hitler thing a lot, but it's the most, when it comes to like the genocide and the death and the Bible and like these hard things of like, God having control or allowing something bad to happen. I think a very recent one in our nation's history that also has to deal with the chosen people of God is the Holocaust, and it's not a far jump, and it's why there's a lot of Jewish literature on what happened for a reason. So this is always an interesting conversation about like God hardening Pharaoh's heart. It comes up all the time when you're talking to Calvinists or Armenians. That's just people who ascribe to Calvinism and people from Armenia. You'd be surprised how many Armenians you meet.
People named Calvin and
people named Calvin
people
and people from Armenia. But basically people who believe, okay, everybody was predestined for either heaven or hell before they were born, or of Armenians who are like, no, that's not true. We all have a choice to be saved. That's the basic tenet of that. That's the split. Now, there are some nuances within that split, of course, because the question is, how much free will do you have and how much sovereignty does God have?
Right. Yeah. Then that was a time in my life I was a very Calvinist, where I was like, everything's in God's control. So like every decision I've ever made was influenced by God at some point. Like, yeah, if you take one of the tenets of it, then you have to take it pretty extreme. Like if you're saying that God is in control of everything, and it doesn't, like you were mentioning, it just starts easily breaking down. Like you do think about modern, like terrorism and dictatorships and whatever, genocides, whatever you want to call it. It's like where these people could just get stopped. It's like a simple act of God, like literally, quite literally, like why not just strike their car with lightning, or like lock them in their house, like make them lose their keys or something. Like that stuff happens all the time. I remember people saying, oh, like my alarm didn't go off, the morning of, this tragic event, like when I was gonna have a car accident or something like that. And it's like, so God was looking out for me. It's like, why couldn't he do the same thing for
everybody else?
Yeah, like for these huge events. But
I remember there was a tweet out there, and there was this lady. She was like, my sister died in a fire, but by the grace of God, her Bible was the only thing that survived. And the top comment was like, Bethany, she died.
Yeah, your sister completely kicked the bucket.
Like
it doesn't matter.
It's bananas.
Yeah, it's finding all these spots. But yeah, anyway, so God hardened some hearts. Let's keep going.
Then you will say to Pharaoh, this is what Yahweh says, Israel is my firstborn son. I told you, let my son go so that he may worship me, but you refuse to let him go. Now I will kill your firstborn son. On the trip at an overnight campsite, it happened that the Lord confronted Moses and sought to put him to death.
Whoa.
Seems to be a jump to me.
Fairly extreme here.
So Zipporah took a flint, Moses' wife. Zipporah, not the flint.
Ziploc bag.
So Ziploc bag took a flint, cut off her son's foreskin, and threw it at Moses' feet. Then she said, you are a bridegroom of blood to me. So God let Moses alone. At that time, she said, you are a bridegroom of blood to me, referring to the circumcision.
Definitely normal behavior. Like we've all done this, haven't we? Been attacked by the Lord God himself at an overnight motel.
I don't know how you were circumcised, but that was exactly how I was.
Yeah, I was circumcised in a Motel 6. My mom just cut
God was going to attack my dad. And so mom circumcised me and my brother. And
God had my dad up against a Pepsi machine in the front of the hotel. Yep.
God came out with a baseball bat wrapped around with barbed wire.
God had a singlet on, like Andre the Giant, and just crashed through the window and choke slammed my dad onto the floor.
God was busting out the headlights of my dad's. You know that one GMC that Yukon, that green Yukon, that just is 1998. Just busted.
I love how you
out.
painted the picture there for the make and model.
Busted that out, and then yelled in the motel parking lot, "You want to fuck with me? Where's my fucking money?"
So then naturally, my wife cuts off
mom.
my son's. Oh, sorry, my mom. Yeah, this happened to me.
My mom.
Yeah, right, we're in the past. Yeah.
My mom cuts off her son's foreskins, throws them at my dad's feet, and God was like, "Okay, this was what I was looking for."
Yeah,
Carry
actually,
on.
this is perfect. Thank you very
This
much.
is-
I'm gonna have a great night. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Never mind the fact that God is sending Moses on a mission and was like,
Yeah, let's kind of reframe this whole thing. So, like, God appoints him to a huge mission of you're gonna help free my people, and Moses kind of is at first like, I'm not gonna do this. I can't talk.
he's hemming and hawing.
He's hemming and hawing a little bit, and then God convinces him. And so then he's on his way, and then suddenly there's a confrontation at the overnight camping stay at the Beaver Creek Memorial Trailer Park grounds.
Yeah, I think you can't like reasonably say, like, if this was just somebody being like, Moses got really sick, he must have gotten like fucking sick, because the verbiage here is God confronts him.
Yeah, it doesn't set the scene like he got struck with illness and then God, because there's other stories we've read in the Bible where it's like God inflicts a sickness to try to kill somebody and then like revives them.
And God like
This sounds like he's
yeah.
waiting to beat him up.
Yeah,
is
God
how
like
I read it.
appears to Moses several times. Like he shows when God wants to show up, he shows up. And so I've got no doubt in my mind that this story is trying to tell you that God was there and drew a sword.
Yeah. Yeah, he had his ass kicking boots on.
Yeah, he was
in
like-
the parking lot.
And this is how we do it back in the Garden of Eden.
I'm going to get biblical on your ass. You don't even know what the Bible is
I
yet.
don't even know what the Bible is. You're so dumb.
It's coming. It's going to be fucked up. Dude.
You're gonna be one book. All this is gonna be just one fucking book,
But
Moses.
66 of them, but kind of back to back. It's kind of out of order, but
Yeah,
not really.
not linear in any shape or form. Some
It's
of
going to
them
be
tell.
two testaments where some people will agree to most of one part of it and then kind of forget about the first half. And you're in the first half, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the second half's way better.
Yeah.
My son's going to be playing it. He's not a Nepo baby. He's just
not
my
a Nepo
son.
baby. He's just my
an
son. He's just-
opportunity.
Yeah, great opportunity for him, I think. Sometimes like different stories are told.
Yeah, we like have
differently.
to have it's like different witnesses to the same event. It's kind of like the OJ trial. You don't know what that is either, but that's coming. So it's a really big thing.
That's coming. You probably won't live to see it, even though you guys.
Unlike
tend to-
Methuselah over here, he's still kicking.
He's
So
still kicking.
I don't know where I am.
Shut up! Eat your Jello.
It's in the corner of the parking lot.
Oh, there's foreskins on your feet. Never mind. Now chill.
Oh, foreskins? All right, I'll put the bat down. Never mind. You're cool.
You're cool.
But anyway, just be on the lookout for that Bible thing. It's
Oh,
gonna
you
be a big
sish?
seller.
You sish? You sish?
You sish. Shut up.
Oh, bro, I love people who sish.
It's actually really natural for you. Like,
It's so much better for you, and like
I also only eat raw meat, Liver King. So I just, really try to make sure I get all my glycomutabates.
yeah, I like to get my glycoma in as much as I can.
My B14 I9 bingo bongo vitamins. Clearly, we know a lot about health and
Oh man, if there's any,
nutrition.
trust that we know more about the Bible than we do health and nutrition.
Also, Holly, sorry I haven't got a single note of dietitian talking me.
I like to get my macronutrients in.
I got a macronutrient for sure. It's
Yeah.
definitely not a micronutrient.
No, it's not a micronutrient. My nutrient's been singed, but it's macro.
It's actually jumbo nutrient. It's considered.
It's
yeah.
it's Omega Plus nutrient. Omega Flex Plus.
We always just find the bottom of the drain and just circle it, don't we? That's this. Welcome to our podcast.
What's the use of a dead horse if you can't beat it?
All right. So I think we've wrapped up the story, right? Because pretty much just Ziploc bag throws a baby penis at God and he runs away. That's just
those the end of a baby penis.
Excuse me.
Yeah, the foreskin
the
of
end.
a baby penis, which I don't know how old they are. They could have been fucking teenagers.
Yeah, it could have been some 12-year-olds. It could have been a 31-year-old man at this point. We don't know.
Imagine that conversation. Boys, God's going to kill your dad. I need you to drop your pants right now.
Hurry. I need your penises out now.
Your penises right now.
I've got this really razor-sharp rock right now. That's the other, do you think, all right, this is going to get gruesome, but with a flint, do you think it was like a careful surgical maneuver around, or was it just like a yank and chop?
Well, here's something interesting that's actually historical.
Oh, finally, some history.
Yeah. So circumcision was originally from Africa, because everybody came from Africa, spoiler alert. But it was very common among the priesthood in Egypt and Midian and everywhere like that. That's where it was. And Jethro is a priest. And so I don't think it's a far stretch to say Zipporah wouldn't have been unfamiliar with the practice. As you know, his daughter, she probably saw it happen and maybe have performed a few circumcisions herself. I don't know. But like it was very much like Pharaoh was probably circumcised.
Say it ain't so.
No, I'm just saying, like it was very much a practice among the nobility and the priesthood, which makes the Israelites unique because they were like, it's for everybody.
That's not my Bible. Only the good guys have penises like this, and then everyone else has a weird normal penis. That's how it's supposed to be. Good guys, they have these types of penises.
Yeah.
Siged.
Bro, you sish? You sish?
Oh, there's so much emphasis on penises. I mean, people cannot blame us for being this obsessed with dick jokes.
Yeah, no, there's
so much emphasis on your
also
dick
circumcision is like one of the only process. I'm kind of talking up my ass right now, but it is a very shocking process to have at the very beginning of the Bible and not explain what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I remember
that's
as a
giving
kid,
the assumption that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah,
that it's so rampant at that point that when the Bible was formed, it was like, oh yeah, circumcision. That's like prayer. Like,
when you finally realize what it is, like I think as a kid, I never really grasped what was going on, and then there was a moment where I thought, for some reason, I thought circumcision was when you just, this is so gruesome, but I thought you just chopped the whole end off. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not that, because that's not, mine has something. And so for like, I think as like a very little kid, that's what I thought it was. I was like, oh, like, why would God want that?
Seems like a weird thing for God to want.
But then you realize it's just part of it, and you're like, that's still kind of weird that God really wants this. Like, he's really like, all right, let's not murder. We're not going to kill other people. We're not going to steal things that aren't ours. And you know what? Your penis, maybe just take off the sweater and then we're good. You know, and then that's, I should have just done that out of the box default setting. But you guys got to do this part. It's beta. It's a bug fix.
It's a bug fix. Oh, man, there's a song by a guy called Hummus Vacuum, and he does a song called "Give Me Back My Foreskin," and it's a pop punk it's just a pop punk song about yelling at a rabbi to give him back his foreskin.
It's everywhere. So listeners, don't blame us that we bring it up almost every episode, because the Bible mentions it almost every episode at this point.
Yeah, the Bible mentioned it right here.
Yeah, we're just talking about it. So back off, listener. Ow!
Yeah.
Stop hitting us.
Yeah. So shut the fuck up. How about that? How about you sit down, shut the fuck up.
Hey, stop. That's our listener there. Put your fist down.
Hey, eat my ass.
Hey, listener, you're on my side right now.
Hey.
Come on over here, listener.
Hey, fuck you,
it's okay? Over here. I got you, listener. It's okay. He's going to stop yelling in a little bit. He just needs to calm down.
At no point am I going to stop yelling.
He's gonna calm down. Just listener, come over here. We got to tell him something to do. We got to distract him. Here,
Right.
let's talk about football.
Oh, football.
Look, there's a football game going on over there.
Football. Oklahoma
Look,
upset
American
Texas
musical theater.
yesterday.
American musical theater.
Oh my God. Book of Mormon. It's not my fault. I have varied interests and I'm a three-dimensional man.
A three-dimensional man. Oh man. I want to kind of talk more about God attempting to kill Moses.
I was about to
is an
say,
interesting point.
I still think it's really wild that God's like, hey, go to Egypt. You know what? Fuck you. Like,
yeah, actually, I'm going to kill you. Do we have a good explanation why? Is it because his son wasn't circumcised? That's really the only reason that God wanted to kill him? Was that he wasn't following the commands?
I'll do the I'm silent where the Bible is silent. That's what saved him from being killed. We don't have a reason as to why God was going to kill him.
I see.
So,
because according to my ESV study Bible,
dun, 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 dun.
It says Moses' failure to circumcise his son could have led to his death had it not been for his wife's action. Once again, Moses' life is preserved through the actions of another, including the time, as now, his wife's Ziploc bag.
You can store more in less space. Less space with Ziploc bag.
You can turn upside down and shake it.
Hefty. Wimpy. No, it's like that's
so
the
ESV
most.
Study Bible disagrees with you, Evan.
Sure. Oh, the ESV Study Bible says could. They don't say
Could.
is.
That's true. They're not very definitive there.
And the ESV Study Bible always leaves room for error.
Spineless nerds.
Yeah, spineless theological nerds. Stand your ground, damn it.
Have a back.
I think it's wild, whatever the reason. I don't know, maybe like Moses killed a bunch of kids and we don't know about it. Like, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh, we missed that verse right before. Yeah, he
missed that verse when he went all fucking Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's that. But it's also I think the equally wild part is just what placates it. And that circumcision is such a big part, which, again, kind of going back to the historical context of it all, circumcision was already a practice and was a practice for the nobility and for the priesthood in this section of the world. And so circumcising your sons, I think, was something a little bit different that the Israelites and the Jewish people were doing, where it was a matter of it's not just for people in, political power, it's for everyone. And I always think that circumcision is such a weird way to trademark yourself, unless you're just walking around bare ass naked.
Yeah, like you gotta just reveal yourself to people to be like, no, I had this happen. It's all right. I'm good. God's on my side. Check this thing out.
And I know, I know there are stories about how people make deals with one another where they would men would, excuse me, men would grab each other by the schlong, essentially, and just be like, my seed is in your hand.
Oh my God.
But
that is just deplorable.
It happened.
I believe it
during this day and age. But
happened just last week to my buddy.
But that's almost like playing. If you think that you can tell that someone's circumcised just by doing that, that's almost by playing like a game of mystery box and trying to figure out what's in the box.
It was their first run at two-factor authentication. Like, okay, his face I recognize. Now let's check out. Let's check out the penis. Okay, that's a mismatch. Your penis doesn't match your face there, buddy.
So Sorry, this deal's not authorized.
This deal's not authorized. You need a circumcised penis to conclude this deal. I don't understand. Circumcision, I actually, this is like the weirdest stuff, but I would love to read a book about it because I don't know where it came from. Like you said, the Bible doesn't really say, there's no origin story or even like a myth behind it that I know of. Because at least other things I've heard of, like myths of like, oh, well, in Greek culture, they think that this god did this and this. And that's like, so there's no even lore behind it. It's just like a random procedure that gets done. And for some reason, it got ordained by the Judeo-Christian God and forever has been part of our culture.
Yeah. It's the best that, because I did some research on this a while back, the best that we know is that it started in East Africa. And again, was kind of a nobility and priesthood thing. And then the Canaanites started trading with the Egyptians and picked up the practice and started doing it for everybody because they were much more of a nomadic group. Didn't necessarily have like a head priest or a king or whatever. So that's kind of from an anthropological standpoint.
So somebody just thought it was a good idea for their kids, essentially, from another culture. They're like,
they're like,
their priests do it. So.
Yeah, and some lady was like, this feels actually really good. I'm going to make sure my sons do the same thing.
Jesus Christ on a cracker.
But also, like, I think back then, like, we didn't, hygiene standards weren't up, or it's kind of complicated to say, but like, it is much easier to cut off a part of your body that's harder to clean than to just clean
guess,
it.
but
like, I think that's the thought process there is like,
yeah.
And especially if that like gets infected and everything like that.
I'll cut my armpits off then too.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. This one is just, it's such a weird act that has been so
normalized.
And also just like in the Bible though, I think I find it funny is like that we'll preach about it. Like I remember like Sunday mornings, like on a random Sunday in like September, we'd have our pastor talk about like, we'd have circumcision day right after peanut butter jellies.
Circumcise my heart, Lord. Circumcise my heart.
My penis needs it.
My pee-pee needs it.
Yes, Lord.
Snip, Lord, snip, Lord, snip, snip, Lord. From the outside in.
Stop it. Quit. I was waiting for one more.
So I'll stand with arms high and skin abandoned.
Oh my gosh.
I'm done.
Oh God. We're going to rebrand this just to the PP Poo Poo podcast with Evan and Scott.
PP Poo Poo and occasionally Hitler.
Yeah. Occasionally Hitler and 9/11 talking. Well, I think that's all I got. Any final thoughts then on this passage?
It's just kind of bananas because it's just like it's one like God is the same today, tomorrow, and forever.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Like how?
The same God that is Stone Cold Steve Austin in a Motel 6 parking lot is the same God you worship today.
Yeah.
Aaron.
the God that is just like, all right, I trust you to go and let your people go. Just sitting down later. You know who I hate? Moses. Like it's like that Arrested Development where it's like, I love all of my children equally. I don't really care for Job.
Yeah. I imagine God's like, he just like got back into his mountain. I imagine God like in a mountain lair, kind of like the Grinch. He just kind of at the top of the mountain, just like inside. But he just finished telling Moses like, yeah, you're going to do all these signs. You're going to Pharaoh. It'd be great. Just get all my people to go. Then he gets back into his recliner and he's like, I actually hate that motherfucker. I'm going to go kill him.
God's been drinking.
Yeah. Oh, Moses always acted so tough. I killed a guy. I'll show him how to kill a guy.
Always acting like you're such a wimpy baby. I can't speak in front of people.
I got a son. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Come here, Jesus. Come here. I love you, Jesus.
Jesus,
You know,
I love you. I love you. I love it. I love you. You're my son. Gonna kill you. You're my son.
What you got over there, Jesus? Is that Minecraft? That's a good job. You're doing a good job.
Doing a good job. Why am I here? Why am I here?
I'm going to kill Moses,
I'm
actually.
gonna kill Moses. I'm gonna
Gets the keys to his Pontiac.
It's just the like total 180. And I know it's like we have to take into consideration it's a historical book, and so like the nuances of like past, like, you know, I don't know, taking us to dinner with the language of, you know, changing events isn't necessarily a literary convention where it's just like, and then, you know, after certain things happen, after thinking about this, but it's just such it's wild that God has that switch of a flip where he's like, all right, go, son of a bitch, I got to kill that guy.
Yeah.
And then
Within
equally,
days.
equally as insane is what placates God.
Yeah.
Oh, foreskins on the feet.
Oh, I'm all good here.
Hey,
I'll leave you alone.
hey, I was mad until I learned that y'all sig. So
Y'all sig over there. Yeah. Honestly, what you brought up for my final thought is just that this is the same God that people are worshiping today, Sunday mornings.
yep, right
know.
now.
Right now. Yeah, actually, right now. Most places across the world when we record this. And that is so funny to me that people are right now, like, you know, laying down their burdens of getting into a school they wanted to be a part of, or growing their family, or, you know, help my dog that's going to the vet tomorrow. And the God that they're praying to is just like a motel brawler across the Middle East that's willing
drunk roadhouse fighter.
Yeah, just like, and the only thing that will appease him is foreskin. It's like so wild to me. And so, like, the thought of God's the same. I don't get it.
I know we were in final thoughts, but I want to ask, is foreskin something God wants, or is foreskin his kryptonite?
Why would he want? Oh, so you think they threw it at his feet and he's like, like,
Exactly.
it's like Dracula against the daylight.
Exactly. Is circumcision something like, is foreskin something that protects you, like, or a circumcised penis? Is that like a kryptonite against God where he can't harm you? Or
So maybe God's the bad guy all along, and by being circumcised, you're blessed because God can't fucking attack you in the middle of the night at motels.
Yep, unless you're Job.
Unless you're Job, yeah.
Unless you're Job, then you're gonna die.
Then you're gonna get everything taken away from you.
Yep.
That's a very interesting thought. I like to think that you could have a sack full of foreskins to like throw at God. It's like having a clove of garlic around your neck, a clove of
to get Dracula away from you. Yeah. God rears the corner. Is like, oh no, foreskin is my only weakness.
Foreskin, please. Blah.
What?
I'll go. I'm sorry. I was going to take a hit tonight, but there's foreskins on the ground.
Ooh,
I'll be leaving.
It's a little bit icky. I don't understand how.
They're like little mushrooms.
Oh man. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening. We really appreciate it. You can follow us on social media. If you're curious about, if you have ideas on what you want us to talk about, you can go to unblessedpodcast.com. That's unblessedpodcast.com.
Good job. Yeah.
Thank you. I was second in my spelling bee in school.
Wow. I would have thought you were first. That was incredible.
I
The
must
bar's really low for me, though. But
But thank you everybody so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And without further ado, my name is Evan.
And I'm Scott.
And keep snipping.